Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome tonight. 24 hours after the National Assembly passed the amended Electoral Act bill, President Bola Tinubu signs it into law. Nigeria's Senate criticizes federal government's envelope budgeting system and calls for improved funding for national security. 37 persons are feared dead following exposure to toxic gas at a mining site in Wase, Plateau State. And second day of talks between Russia, Ukraine and the US aimed at ending Moscow's war in Ukraine concludes in Geneva without any breakthrough.
And on business, CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso calls for stronger cooperation among African central banks to drive economic growth across the continent.
On sports news tonight, a standout performance from Anthony Gordon gives Newcastle a significant advantage over Karabakh in the first leg of the UEFA Champions League playoffs.
And from the nation's capital, President Bola Tinubu urges Nigerians to use Lenten and Ramadan fasts to foster unity and stability and pray for the nation's security.
President Bola Tinubu has signed the Electoral Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2026 into law. The signing ceremony, which took place at the State House in Abuja, was attended by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, principal officers of the National Assembly, senior government officials, and aides to the President. While speaking at the event, President Tinubu described the new law as a landmark achievement for Nigerian democracy, saying the legislation will deepen electoral integrity and help democracy flourish.
What is crucial is the fact that you manage the process to the extent there will be no confusion, no disenfranchisement of Nigerians, and that we are all going to see democracy flourish. It is time that we have confidence in our system. No matter how good a system is, it's managed by the people, promoted by the people, and the result is finalized by the people. In fact, for final results, you are not going to be talking to the computer, you are going to be talking to human beings who will announce the final results. And when you look at the crux of various arguments, maybe Nigeria should question our broadband capability. How technically are we today? How technically will we be tomorrow to answer the call of either read time or no? And we need to avoid glitches. I'm glad you did. Interference, unnecessary hacking in this age of, computer inquisitiveness. Nigeria will be there. We will flourish. We will continue to nurture this democracy for the fulfillment of our dream for prosperity and stability of our country.
Meanwhile, Senator Godswill Akpabio has expressed strong satisfaction with the newly signed Electoral Act, describing it as a historic and painstaking piece of legislation that reflects the genuine aspirations of Nigerians. Speaking at the State House after President Bola Tinubu signed the bill into law, the President of the Senate said lawmakers were patriotic and thorough in their approach, taking into account the peculiarities of the Nigerian environment while resisting undue outside interference. The Speaker of the House of Representatives also emphasized the importance of the reduction in the number of days' notice for elections.
We are satisfied that we have met the aspiration of Nigerians. That the issue of real time also comes in. Once you transmit, even if there is no network at that time, once you go to where there is network, it will still drop. So eventually everything will still be shown. So we are happy and satisfied that we have been able to interpret the intentions and the yearnings of majority of Nigerians, not those who are politically motivated, not few people who make noise. Noise is different from lawmaking. And I always say, no matter what we did in the last 2 years, we went to retreat in Lagos, we went to retreat in Ibadan, everywhere. Those things were just mere consultations. The final outcome of what was amended happens in the plenaries. This has never happened since 1960. We have never had electronic transmission of result in any of our laws. We never even recognized the IRF in the 2022 Act. All those things are now there. And at the end of the day, more powers are given to political parties.
The number of days notice, which was earlier in the 2022 Act, 360 days. Now we have seen the wisdom to reduce it to 300 days. And this will inadvertently translate to holding the presidential and National Assembly elections in January 2027. And that will technically avoid conducting election during month of Ramadan of 2027. And I think this is another one piece of unity that the National Assembly has introduced to avoid voter apathy in the next general election.
Now, the recent declaration of a national emergency on security by President Bola Tinubu must be supported with adequate funding to be effective. A chairman of the Senate Committee on National Security and Intelligence, Senator Yahya Abdullahi, made this declaration after a closed-door meeting with security and intelligence agencies during their budget defense before the committee. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
It's the turn of the National Security Advisor and other intelligence agencies as they appear before the Senate Committee on National Security and Intelligence for their budget defense.
Don't adhere to time.
One lawmaker sets the tone with a striking jab, spotlighting their punctuality.
Our colleagues, some of them sat in these chambers, and they go because they are ministers. They don't want to adhere to time and rule of law. And it's disappointing. I wish I use this opportunity in the Security Committee to commend you people and ask you never to go back.
Lamentations dominated the session as officials openly laid bare the challenges confronting their agencies.
A lot of constraint in terms of resource allocation to the intelligence community, Mr. Chairman. With the recent declaration of state emergency on the national security by Mr. President, it is our humble prayer that adequate funding shall be provided through supplementary budget to the intelligence community to ensure timely and speedy response of issues of national security. We'll all agree that no nation can grow without adequate security, Mr. Chairman.
These funding gaps are clearly resonating with the lawmakers before they retreat into a closed-door session.
It should be clearly stated that the no-release of the or partial release of capital funds allocated to security agencies in 2024 and 2025 budget is inappropriate. This has no doubt impacted on the very negatively on their capacity to procure materials and modern security equipment, as well as their operational capabilities.
Elsewhere, the Minister of State for Works, alongside the Managing Director of FIRMA, appear before a joint committee on FIRMA. Lawmakers immediately began to scrutinize the ministry's 2025 performance and 2026 budget proposal of 229.9 billion naira.
The road network is the primary artery of Nigeria's national development. Sustainable infrastructure is the only viable path
to a $1 trillion economy.
Lawmakers expressed worry over funding constraints among other areas of concern.
Insurgents in my senatorial district take advantage of potholes planted improvised explosive device along Damasak Road, taking advantage of the potholes along that road, and then kill about 10 soldiers.
Our major problem is insecurity, but we have discussed with the Office of the National Security Advisor to try as much as possible to give us some security men that will protect our contractors at site.
We need to have releases that can enable us to implement. And those releases are also sensitive to the time of the year. When the releases come around the rainy season, there's not much you can do. So the budgeting cycle, the procurement cycle, they need to be in rhythm so that we can maximize the value of any fund that is released to the agency.
The committee is expected to reconvene with the ministry to resolve other outstanding issues. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Now aligning indeed with the Senate this time, Chairman of the House Committee on National Security, Honorable Ahmed Satomi, says the funds released in the 2025 budget to national security do not align with the President's proclamation on his intent to tackle insecurity in the country. The lawmaker stated this during the budget defense session on national security, where he further stated that the country's security training institutions are nothing to write about. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has issued a 72-hour ultimatum to relevant agencies, stakeholders and concessionaires to submit all requested documents for ports concessioning. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Kumi tells us more.
The House Committee on National Security meets with security agencies and parastatals, including the Director of State Services, who appears in person for the 2026 budget defense.
Intelligence-driven policy.
The committee chairman raises concerns about the releases in the 2025 budget, questioning its impact in the face of growing security concerns.
In 2024, this committee undertook a visit to the training schools of various departments and state services in Bauchi, Lagos, Enugu, and have scheduled to visit Kaduna and the remaining sites in Kogi, Cross River State. We also visited the training school of the NIA in Lagos. We are disheartened by the sorry state of facility. Also, there is absolutely nothing to suggest that the executive priorities to security and intelligence, if we go by the releases of 2025 budget implementation, is absolutely nothing.
Despite the 5.41 trillion naira defense and security proposal, which is the highest allocation in the 2026 budget, the chairman of the committee considers the allocation to be insufficient.
These allocations are indeed very abysmal and does not seem much with the intent of the speech delivered by Mr. President to the joint session of the National Assembly as today's Assembly on December 19, 2023.
His submission is supported by the Office of the National Security Advisor.
None of the agency has more than 30% overhead release to it. Non-implementation of the releases of 2025 capital, Mr. Chairman, only 30% were released on 31st December to the intelligence community.
The rest of the meeting continues behind closed doors. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has resumed investigation into the performance and benefits accrued to the federal government from concessionaires operating air and seaport terminals and related shipping activities from 2006 to 2025. Chairman of the ad hoc committee, Kolawole Akinlayo, seized the moment to issue an ultimatum for submission of documents.
Asking for submission is helping you out of this quagmire, because if it happens, it's found on your head, so it's none of my business. But you must give us the document that is requested of you. And we attach a data to that document. Yeah, there's a template. We don't need plenty gala must go. We have a template attached to it. So just follow that template and make the submission. It's as simple as that. So giving you 72 hours, I know what I'm saying, because we've already helped you halfway.
The committee is also insisting that the heads of the agencies and organizations must be present for the hearing at the expiration of the ultimatum. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, 2 persons killed and 3 others injured during Wednesday's APC Ward Congress in Idore, Ondo State. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasted live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. 24 hours after the National Assembly passed the amended Electoral Act bill, President Bola Tinubu signs it into law. Nigeria's Senate criticizes federal government's envelope budgeting system and calls for improved funding for national security. 37 persons are feared dead following exposure to toxic gas at a mining site in Wase, Plateau State. And second day of talks between Russia, Ukraine and the US aimed at ending Moscow's war in Ukraine concludes in Geneva without any breakthrough. In Plateau State, tragedy struck a mining community in Zurak Wase local government area where dozens of artisanal miners are feared dead after reportedly inhaling toxic gas deep underground. The Plateau State Commissioner for Information, Joyce Remnant, confirmed that the incident occurred, but said authorities are yet to determine the exact number of casualties, describing available details as still unclear. However, the Wase youth leader, Shafi Sambo, disclosed that preliminary reports suggest at least 37 miners may have lost their lives. Speaking during a telephone interview with Channels Television, Mr. Sambo explained that he received an early morning distress call due to his role as a community youth leader. According to him, the miners had dug unusually deep while working at the site and were suddenly exposed to a deadly gas, killing dozens right on the spot. He adds that several other miners were pulled out alive and immediately taken to nearby hospitals for emergency treatment, though the total number of survivors could not be confirmed as of press time. And Mr. Sambo further revealed that the youth were mining zinc for a company locally identified as Dan China, believed to be Chinese-owned and operating within the area. Independent confirmation of the mineral being extracted was not immediately available. In response to the incident, troops of the Nigerian Army were deployed to the site, sealing off the area to prevent further access and reduce the risk of additional exposure. At least 2 persons were reportedly killed during the Ward Congress of the All Progressives Congress in Ondo State as violence erupted in Idore of Idore local government area. Several others were said to have sustained injuries during the crisis, which also led to the burning of a vehicle. Just yesterday, another APC Congress in the Ondo State capital of Akure turned violent with an attack on some party faithfuls. Reports there say hoodlums stormed the secretariat on Tuesday while a meeting was going on and started beating the attendees, causing chaos and bringing the meeting to an end abruptly. 2 party stakeholders in an interview narrate their experience in the hands of the hoodlums.
As a matter of fact, at the time they were doing all those things, we were with in an inner room with our data. We had moved into I was trying to brief for that the people would soon call this and that. So then they just came in the inner room after they have driven away these other people. Then we were right inside the inner room. We were breaking in that whoever they made that they would kill that person, beat that person to come out. I killed that person. So I even attempted to jump down from the 2-story.
The high table was set, everybody was there, expecting that those people who are with the governor is the leader of the party in the state, and we're expecting that those people from Abuja will come and then the meeting will commence. It's supposed to be a Georgia meeting. All of a sudden, we just heard noise. Pandemonium everywhere. What are you doing here? The governor is talking. Somebody else is talking. Who is beating you? They started beating everybody.
Ondo State Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, while addressing party stakeholders, blames the incident on rivalry among some aspirants within the party, but then says he directed the State Commissioner of Police to deploy men to the scene to help restore peace.
We normally have quarterly stakeholders meeting of our party every quarter, but this is a special one because of the event that is about to take place. We had our first quarter of 60 per local government, 60 leaders, they are all here among the 60, but we cannot bring the whole 60 here this time around. So selected among the 60, they are all here. And he said that is fine, but later while I was in the function, I started getting some phone call intelligence that some miscreants who are supporters of some aspirants who have interest in one position or the other are having clash outside the gate. They could not, but they had to quickly ask the Commissioner of Police to move in immediately to ensure that they protect the life.
Now, as the APC commences its ward congresses nationwide in line with the party's approved timetable, Governor Hope Uzodimma of Imo State has reiterated his commitment to ensure a strong and enduring political structure that will guarantee a seamless succession plan in the state. The governor made this known during an enlarged meeting of critical stakeholders held in Owerri, the Imo State capital, where he emphasized that the ward congress remained the bedrock of the party's internal architecture and must be conducted with transparency, credibility, and unity of purpose.
The World Congresses is the foundation of our party in Imo State. I would like us to be very organic and do proper engineering in laying the foundation of our party in Imo State. I am particularly interested because I want political harmony in Imo. I want to drive the charter of equity in Imo State. I will never take for granted their support all this while. But more importantly, we must put a focused government and we must have a credible succession plan. And because we must have a credible succession plan, I will leave no stone unturned in putting together the infrastructure that will drive the succession. Among that is what we are starting today. We have developed an economic plan. We have developed an industrial policy. We are rebuilding our infrastructure. I don't want a situation when I'm no longer here as the governor. The government that is here will not continue with those things. I will monitor very closely. Anyway, I will cancel it. In this Congress, nobody is my relation, nobody is my friend. The only thing that is my relation and my friend is to have a credible exercise.
The Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria in the Southwest region has thrown its weight behind President Bola Tinubu, pledging support for his re-election bid ahead of the 2027 general elections. The endorsement was unveiled at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena in Lagos, where members of the transport union converged in a show of solidarity. At the gathering, the association passed a vote of confidence in President Tinubu's leadership, affirming its commitment to mobilizing support.
Members of the Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria from across the Southwest have gathered at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena in Lagos, rallying support for the re-election of President Bola Tinubu. The event drew a strong political presence, including the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Mudashiru Obasa, top government officials, the Lagos State Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Cornelius Ojelabi, as well as traditional rulers. Together, they echoed a unified call for continuity, stability, and sustained development.
We, the Southwest Zone of our dear association, has converged in unity and in good faith to organize a more befitting, inclusive, and dignified endorsement ceremony for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The message that we are passing to our members is that they should go and collect voters' cards. Without voter card, you cannot fight for your rights. Without voters' card, you cannot say that I want to vote for my candidate. But with your voters' card, one vote, one person. So before we know, we will see that all of us will come out in mercy and we achieve our aim.
The Trade Union Congress also declared solidarity with the Transport Union, lending its voice to the endorsement.
We also trust in the decisions of our affiliates as it concerns them. And to that extent, we are here to also support them as they have requested.
Addressing the gathering, Speaker Obasa urged Nigerians to align with the ruling party, stressing that continuity remains key to deepening progress and good governance.
Let's appreciate our president for the good job he has been doing, and let us tell our people, the Nigerians, that it's going to be well. They should continue to support Mr. President.
In a symbolic gesture, RTEAN leaders presented a framed portrait of the president to the Lagos State APC chairman, an emblem of their unwavering support for President Tinubu's second-term bid.
It is you people that are saying Ashwaju should go for second term. Let me enjoin you that the only weapon by which you can reciprocate the gesture is your PVC.
With this endorsement, the Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria says it's fully mobilized across states, pledging to take the renewed hope agenda to the grassroots communities and deliver victory for President Bola Tinubu in the 2027 general election.
Still ahead on the news at 10, CBN Governor Olayemi Cardozo calls for stronger cooperation among African central banks to drive economic growth across the continent. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back. Now let's head to the nation's capital, and Millicent Walker is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Over to you, Millicent.
Many thanks, Ayatunde. As Christians and Muslims commence their respective seasons of fasting, President Bola Tinubu has urged all Nigerians to ensure good neighborliness, promote peace, unity and stability, and pray for the progress and security of the country. In a personal statement, the president noted the rare and remarkable coincidence of Lent and Ramadan beginning on the same day, describing it as a powerful reminder that Nigerians of different faiths are fundamentally one people under God. The statement reads, quote, "For Christians, the Lenten season is a time for fasting, abstinence and penitence, following Jesus Christ's example in the wilderness before his crucifixion, which brought salvation to mankind. For Muslims, Ramadan is a hallowed season that reflects total submission to God Almighty and his command of sacrifice, devotion, service, and communal love and giving. It marks one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Beyond the obligatory fasting, Ramadan calls for deep spiritual reflection in obedience to Islam's injunctions." End of quote. He enjoined Nigerians to live by the good precepts of their faiths and be honorable to God and fellow humans. And as Ramadan fasting commences in Kano, the market situation is a mixed bag. Price increases and stability in some instances. For example, prices of commodities like Irish potatoes and beans have risen. Staple crops like rice and maize remain stable. Well, traders say the price changes are due to seasonal demand, logistical challenges, and government interventions. Meanwhile, the primate of the Anglican Church of Nigeria, the Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, says the current crisis bedeviling the nation is as a result of the acts of wickedness and sin of the Nigerian people, especially to one another. The Archbishop, who spoke at the Holy Communion and imposition of ashes to mark Ash Wednesday, said the people must use the Lenten season to return to God and ask for forgiveness to secure his intervention for lasting peace and prosperity. And we head to health now, where the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Pate, says Nigeria's health sector must deepen its shift from faith-based assessments to evidence-based planning and programming. He made this known during the 2025 fourth quarter performance dialogue with State Commissioners of Health in Abuja. The minister describes the latest health sector scorecard as revealing, noting that while there have been improvements in some areas, significant gaps remain.
The Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare is organizing this meeting with State Commissioners of Health to review the performance of the sector in the fourth quarter of 2025. The essence of the review is to provide a clear picture of the progress made and where urgent action is needed, as the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Pate, calls for evidence-based planning and programming.
It is very encouraging that we have continued to build on this path towards more evidence-based review, policy, programming, and seeing how we are actually doing from one where it was mostly stories, from faith-based to more evidence-based. The facts, the data, what it shows is that, in fact, we have a mixed picture. There are areas that we've made some improvements, but there are a lot of areas that we have to double down to work on. The scorecard is very revealing, not only in terms of the substance, but also in terms of the quality of the data that we are getting. The idea is that the data and this kind of dialogue will allow us to refine and to course correct as information becomes available to us.
The sector-wide approach coordination office established by the Federal Ministry of Health drives health sector reform by uniting the federal and all state governments alongside partners under a single unified national health strategy. It aims to reduce fragmentation in health funding and planning.
We want to move from that era in the past where development partners will maybe through certain MOUs sit with governors and hold them accountable. We want, as government, to institutionalize our accountability systems. That's really what this is about. And thankfully, every single quarter over the last 2 years, similar with the BATPF expanded MOC, we have had this kind of dialogue with states. We started from a journey of identifying our one source of truth, aligning with states around not just the code of conduct, but the core indicators that we want to measure as a basis for improving performance.
The federal government is hoping that the outcome of the dialogue will contribute to the improvements in some areas, as the minister emphasized the need to strengthen the sector-wide approach aimed at improving healthcare delivery nationwide.
And that's it from Abuja. Back now to Lagos for more on the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Millicent. The Future X Unilever Campus Ambassadors program is energizing Nigerian campuses, empowering students to lead conversations on skills, leadership, and social impact. Driven by Unilever in partnership with the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, the initiative equips young undergraduates with practical experience, employability skills, and a platform to drive positive change.
We still see the possibility of surpassing the Future X Campus Ambassadors Program, FUCAP, a partnership between Unilever and UNICEF, is stepping confidently into its third year, deepening efforts to prepare young Nigerians for life beyond the classroom. But first, the scorecard in just 2 years.
And we already have reached 900,000 young people impacted. Bringing our competencies together and really going to meet the university graduates or undergraduates in the universities has really brought a lot of benefits to them.
The initiative is designed to turn potential into possibility, equipping students with skills that matter in today's world of work. For Unilever, FUCAP is more than training, it's about transformation.
When I talked about the three connections, our Vice President, His Excellency Vice President Kashim Shettima, he's the chairman of the GENU board in Nigeria, right? We have UNICEF also with the experience of driving development at different scales across the globe. And then also for Unilever, which we have a purpose-led ambition to ensure that we positively impact the environment, and not as a CSR, but as a strategic initiative.
It's transformation indeed from this beneficiary's account.
I've helped to my present role where I currently serve in multi-states secretariats, the Ministry of Commerce, Investment, and I'm grateful for the network and connections I've had being a campus ambassador.
With presence in 20 universities across the country and thousands of FUCAP ambassadors spreading the word, organizers share the expectations for the third year.
We are looking at continuing, of course, making sure that we can surpass our results and go way beyond 1 million young people impacted. That would be absolutely amazing.
It includes something as basic as how to prepare your CV, brand storytelling. When we're talking about even social impact, a bit of focus also on the female gender as well, in terms of how to build businesses and overall even things like operations management. So it cuts across the board.
As the 2026 FUCAP program takes off, with the University of Calabar taking the lead, it's a renewed promise that skills can open doors, ideas can create jobs, and opportunity can be scaled.
The Insight 2026, hosted by Nigeria's leading law firm Birchstone & Grace, convened regulators, industry players and financiers to tackle critical challenges, private opportunism, sector fragility and the path to energy sustainability. Key discussions explored how robust legal frameworks, clean capital and market confidence can transform Nigeria's energy landscape. Our correspondent Ewalua Ogunbodidi has more.
And once the group managing director is here, she's going.
The Insight 2026, hosted by Birchstone & Grace law firm, conveyed key stakeholders to dissect Nigeria's energy sector. Co-founder Birchstone & Grace, Osaro Egobamie, highlighted opportunities in sector fragility, stressing rebuilding energy security foundations in the country.
When we speak of opportunism, we refer to the exploitation of circumstances for immediate gain without regard for principles, long-term consequences, or the broader public interest.
Regulators, industry players and financiers debated structural vulnerabilities beyond infrastructural gaps, impacting economic stability and growth. Panelists explored interplay between robust laws, clean capital and market confidence.
Yes, we have problems. Every country has problems. Even the UK. I was speaking with someone the other day, I was like, is this the received English law? Louis versus Obine, Louis versus all those are our cases. Then when we were reading Nigerian legal system, when I look at their charge sheet, I say, is this a judge? Are these the people that really taught us law? They don't have enough presidencies like we do now. We are rich, but what's the problem? Impunity. I go back to mindset. I go back to improving ourselves.
You can see in the past year or two a rush of investments have been into deep water and gas development. And that is because the Petroleum Industry Act has given clarity to a number of things in our industry.
We all together unveiled this today, and it shall be beneficial to everyone.
The event closed with awards honoring contributors to Nigeria's energy sector. The convener, Dr. Tolu Aderemi, highlights the event's major contributions and impact on the energy sector.
In over 27 years, we have focused on practical issues within whether the oil and gas sector or the electricity sector. We've played whether in relation to advocacy on its laws, which is really the bedrock of any business that you do.
The Insight 2026 concluded with consensus. Nigeria's energy future depends on the collaborative governance, transparent regulation, and strategic investment. Ewalua Ogunbodidi, Channels Television News.
Business News is up next with Will Ibo.
Thank you, Ayotunde.
Nigeria's Central Bank Governor Olayemi Cardoso is calling on African central banks and development finance institutions to work together to grow the continent's economies. He says Africa must industrialize, create jobs, cut poverty, and also tackle climate change. Speaking at the Egypt's 30 by 30 program in Cairo, organized by the Central Bank of Egypt and the International Finance Corporation, Cardoso says Africa's future must be resilient, climate aware, and economically sustainable. Now, President Bola Tinubu has signed an executive order directing all oil and gas revenues to go straight into the Federation account. The move aims to stop wasteful deductions and improve transparency. NNPC Limited will no longer keep the 30% management fee or the Frontier Exploration Fund. All payments from production sharing, profit sharing, royalties, taxes, and gas flaring penalties now go directly to the Federation account. An implementation committee of key ministers and officials will oversee the reforms. And let's check in with the domestic equities market. We saw a rebound in today's trading session. Here's Laddie Williams with the highlights.
Okay, we're back in action today. After losing 941 points and breaking the 11-day winning streak that was yesterday, the market is back up again and claiming the 190,000 level back again for the all-share index. For the sectors that we track, most of them are up today. We see Zenith Bank, after losing yesterday and gaining in the previous trading session, it rose again today, and a couple of tier 2 banks, 0.67% for the banking counter. Then we see oil and gas there, a big 3.87% rise today. Let's see why. Let's see why oil and gas counter is up so high. Seplat Energy, 9,099 naira to close today. This started trading at about 5,000 naira per share earlier this year. So year to date is up about 59%. What a run. So it's green again today. We'll see if the bulls can maintain this sentiment to the end of the week.
Let's check out the performance of other major equities around the world. And that's business. I'm Willie Bung. Is back to Ayo for more on the news at 10.
Many thanks, Will. Simon Pusey is up next with international news from around the world in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Talks between Russia, Ukraine and the US aimed at ending Moscow's war in Ukraine have concluded without a breakthrough. The trilateral meetings held in Geneva went on late on Tuesday, but only lasted 2 hours on Wednesday. Although US envoy Steve Witkoff had expressed optimism over the talks, both the chief Russian negotiator and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky indicated that they had been difficult. Some progress was made on military issues, including the location of the front line and ceasefire monitoring, according to a Ukrainian diplomatic source, but an agreement on the issue of territory, without which no ceasefire can be envisaged, remains elusive, with Moscow and Kyiv's positions still far apart.
It's not just an emotional or a human issue. It is also a strategic military outpost, a network of fortified cities that actually favors the defenders and disfavors Russian counteroffensive. So Putin is putting this specifically front and central, and until that is agreed, and he needs that staging post for future invasion of Ukraine, because as we know, he fundamentally rejects the existence of Ukraine as a sovereign state.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has rejected Israel's recognition of the breakaway region of Somaliland as an independent nation. During a visit to Ethiopia, Erdogan said it could prove dangerous for a volatile region. In December, Israel became the first country to recognize Somaliland, which declared independence from Somalia more than 30 years ago. The move upset Mogadishu, which still considers Somaliland as part of its territory. Landlocked Ethiopia has yet to comment, but its plans 2 years ago to lease a piece of Somaliland's coastline to build a port angered Somalia at the time, and it was Erdogan who mediated an end to the dispute that had prompted fears of a wider conflict. 2 more people have been detained by French authorities after the killing of a far-right student activist by suspected radical left militants in Lyon, bringing the total in custody to 11. Quentin Deronk suffered a fatal brain injury when he was beaten and kicked during a demonstration last week on the sidelines of a conference held by Rima Hassan, a member of the European Parliament for hard-left party France Unbowed. The wave of arrests began on Wednesday and included a parliamentary assistant to politician Raphael Arnault. Arnault said his assistant had halted all his work in Parliament and his contract was being terminated. Even before his arrest, Farvo's lawyer said he formally denied responsibility for the activist's death. Gabon's media regulator has announced the suspension of social media platforms until further notice, saying online content had fueled conflict and deepened divisions in the country. In a televised statement on Tuesday evening, the High Authority for Communication cited the spread of false information, cyberbullying and unauthorized disclosure of personal data as reasons for the decision. Internet monitoring group NetBlocks reported that by Wednesday afternoon, multiple online platforms had been restricted, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and WhatsApp.
Liz's favorite video, we just captured this NYPD video of the NYPD making a rescue on the Hudson River.
And body camera footage shows NYPD Harbour Unit officers rescuing an injured bald eagle stranded on ice in the Hudson River. Members of the Harbour Unit acted swiftly, safely removing the bird and transporting it to a New Jersey animal sanctuary. Once nearly extinct in New York, bald eagles are now becoming more common in the Hudson Valley, especially during the winter months from December through to March. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks indeed, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Let's begin with the Nigeria Women Football League Premiership, where we bring you some updates of results played earlier today. Heartland Queens ended champions. Bayelsa Queens winning streak, coming from a goal down to thrash the Group A leaders 3-1. Rivers Angels were 2-1 winners at Ekiti. Edo Queens recorded same scoreline against Ibom Angels in Uyo, while Niger Rotels lost at home 2-0 to Adamawa Queens. In the UEFA Champions League, Anthony Gordon starred with a brilliant 4-goal haul as Newcastle United cruised across Karabakh 6-1 in the first leg of their Champions League playoff tie on Wednesday. Gordon has now scored 10 Champions League goals this season. In other results, Bodo Glimt thumped Inter Milan 3-1, while Ademola Lookman scored his first Champions League goal as Atletico Madrid earned a 3-3 draw at Club Brugge, with Rafael Oyedika also on the score sheet for Club Brugge. Well, let's turn to the English Premier League now, where some drama. Bukayo Saka, as Arsenal had to draw 2-2 with Wolves. The win, we hear, extended the league leaders' lead on the table to 7 points ahead of second place Manchester City. We hear the game is still on. Arsenal, league leaders, 2-2 draw, playing with Wolverhampton Wanderers as it stands right now. Hopefully they can get all 3 points as league leaders. That's Sports News Tonight. I'm Kelly. It's back to Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Kelly. We now bring you an update on the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, who has been in EFCC custody since Monday. The channel's television has gathered that he has been released by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission this evening. He was picked up by the DSS, which has already filed a 3-count charge against the former Kaduna State governor. And the main news again. 24 hours after the National Assembly passed the amended Electoral Act bill, President Bola Tinubu has now signed it into law. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Do have a good night.